Hi everybody, welcome back. Martin Cowan, Editorial Director for Tnooz. This is Tnooz Live at GBTA, presented by BCD Travel. Next up, we've got Marwan Batrouni, who's Vice President of Supplier Relations for Hotels at BCD Travel. Thanks for joining us, Marwan. I know you've got a busy day, so thanks for giving us 10 minutes of your time. One of the things that when I was sort of looking around at what BCD Travel does in terms of hotels, there's a lot of talk around sort of dynamic sourcing of hotel inventory. So I'm just wondering if you could explain what dynamic sourcing is and how it is different from presumably static sourcing.
Absolutely.
And what can that then offer to clients?
Absolutely. There's a little bit of commonality between the two, but there's also a very stark difference. So when we think about the sourcing process for a hotel, I think that everyone can agree that it's not the most ideal process, it's not the easiest process. It takes a very long time and it ends up taking a lot of a company's time, energy, resources, and money. And really the idea in mind in the traditional sourcing sense is to try to source as many properties as possible to cover as much spend as possible. With dynamic sourcing, it's kind of taking things a slightly different approach. It's all about trying to be a little bit more strategic in where you source and where you kind of manage things in a slightly different way. So where you want to source is your primary markets that really have high concentration of spend and would warrant a preferred property. And in a general sense, it's about 40 to 50% of where the majority of the spend is going. And then for your secondary and tertiary markets, you'd want to find a way to kind of cover that spend without having to necessarily go through that sourcing process and waste a lot of time, energy, and money. So you'd want to work with a partner that would really help you with bringing in that content, bringing in the right properties, the right rates, in order to give you that 100% coverage, because you're going to be sourcing 40 to 50% of your spend through a sourcing event, and then the other portion of your spend would be covered in a general way.
Okay, so there's almost like there's a priority set of markets that you would put the time and the effort to get the best rate, and then there's a secondary, tertiary set that isn't as important, so you don't spend.
Absolutely, it's probably as important, but because you don't have the volume to warrant necessarily a preferred rate, or you may see that some properties are just not really interested in giving you a rate because you only have 50 or 100 room nights at that property. It's more strategic to find a better way to find discounted rates at those properties without having to go through the sourcing process. Now the second component to dynamic sourcing is all about, okay, now that you have your program in place, how to go about in dynamically managing it. So that would be dynamic performance management. And it's all about having the right KPIs, the right dashboards, the right types of audits to identify what's working well, what's not working well, and to make adjustments along the way in a dynamic way. Hence the dynamic performance management.
Okay, so there's a layer beneath the actual sourcing of the inventory, then there's almost the managing of the sourcing of the inventory that happens.
Absolutely, and really the reason behind all of that is, when we think about what happens today in a traditional sourcing program, you're spending all this time and negotiating with properties, come to find out that a large part of the time the rates are either not available or the properties are not available, they don't have any inventory in place anymore. Suppliers are adjusting the last room availability rates or the definition of last room availability rates. So making sure that you're covered in your top markets and then having a very dynamic way to manage the rest of the program is really the way to go.
Okay, so when you're sort of sourcing hotels for clients, does alternative accommodation blip your radar? It's one of the things that we've sort of covered quite extensively on Tnooz is this shift from the alternative accommodation providers, of which there are many of them here at GBTA. I'm just wondering what the conversations you might be having with clients around that are like these days.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the short answer is yes, absolutely, it's on our radar. We already have alternative accommodation content in our on our booking tools, TripSource Hotel as a booking platform. We already have alternative accommodations within that platform. And it's very important to us because we have seen an increase in clients' interest and usage of alternative accommodations. Now, not every client, not every corporate client is really approaching things the same way. Some corporate clients are very clear in their decision that they would not want their travelers to book alternative accommodations, and that's perfectly fine. Other corporate clients are more open to using alternative accommodations, and some are kind of fall in somewhere in the middle because they feel that that would be a great alternative to traditional hotels in markets where there's a lot of volume. There's some difficulty in finding rooms all the time, so they would open it up to their travelers wherever needed. So for us, it's always important to make sure that we have those options available to our corporate clients, and we have those options available now, and we're always listening to corporate clients to let us know if there's anything missing so that we can make sure that we pull it in.
Okay, I mean the whole idea around alternative accommodation as part of a corporate program was a question that probably wouldn't have made any sense a couple of years ago. One question that would have made sense a couple of years ago is leakage, and it's one of the things that I get quite surprised about, because I've been doing this for 15, 17 years, and I'm pretty sure one of the first ever press releases I received was around out-of-policy booking, or the Maverick Traveller, as I think it was called. It still seems as if leakage is still an issue in the corporate travel space. I'm just wondering if you felt that it was a big problem, and whether there was anything specifically that technology could do maybe to help leakage, or is it just about the product? I mean, if my preferred hotel supplier is a chain I'm not particularly fond of, then I would book somewhere else maybe. So is it a tech or a product? All of the above.
It's all the above. I think that for most corporate clients, it continues to be a very big challenge and an issue that they have to solve for. I wish I can say that there's a silver bullet that would address leakage in general, but the fact is that it's not. That there is no perfect solution, but there are things that can be done in order to mitigate the leakage that's happening and have more attachment within the program by travelers. From a technology perspective, corporate clients working with a travel partner that can make sure that the right hotel content is available for booking at the right rates is a great place to start. If you think about, what are the main reasons why travelers go outside of the policy or outside of the approved booking channels, it's because they think that they can get a better rate, or they can find that perfect hotel wherever they're staying, and they feel that what's being made available by their travel team is not really doing them any good. So making sure that content is available and the rates are available, and making sure that the booking experience is an easy one, is a friendly one, something that travelers would kind of correlate, or they would compare with how they would want to make their bookings if they were traveling for leisure. Then that would really go a long way. And then if that's done the right way, what happens is that you're gaining the traveler's confidence, and they're able to start booking more and more within the right booking channels.
Okay, so that's looking at it from a sort of traveller end user perspective. One other thing that I've always found quite interesting is what is the, so you negotiate rates between sort of chain A and chain B as the preferred supplier. I'm just wondering from a corporate's perspective, is it just the rates that will be the final, the major factor for making that decision, or are we seeing it's a more broader picture now, not just the rates, the quality, the location, the service? I mean, what is the deciding factor when a corporate chooses between two chains?
That's a very loaded question, because there's no really a real answer, but it's all of the above. It's the rate, it's the quality, it is where that chain is located relative to where the client is traveling. But if I were to say, what is probably the most important thing, if all things are equal, would chain A be chosen over chain B? It's all about partnership. It's clients that can relate to a chain in terms of how they are viewing the overall relationship, and the overall partnership makes a huge, huge difference. So that chain that is showing that it is very long term, and it is more of a strategic relationship versus just a one-time sourcing event or a one-time decision, really makes the biggest difference.
So it's almost like the human,
Yeah,
real
absolutely.
world, offline relationship.
If all things are equal. Obviously, if the rates are not right, then
Yeah.
that's a hurdle that they have to
Yeah.
go around, and if the quality is not there, there's a hurdle, but it's more of a partnership decision.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you very much for taking the
Absolutely.
time to join us. I'm sure you've got a very busy schedule.
Thank you for having me.
Just to get 10 minutes of your time, thank you.
Excellent.
All right, Martin Cowan, editorial director for Tnooz. Tnooz Live at GBTA, presented by Tnooz Live at GBTA, presented by BCD Travel. We'll be back shortly. See you soon. Bye.